For the first time in franchise history, the San Jose Sharks get swept in a season series to Los Angeles. We'll recap that game. We'll recap the Barracuda visit to San Diego and a little bit more, not too much, right now on Teal Town After Dark. Good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday night, January 11th, 2023. The San Jose Sharks lose to the Los Angeles Kings 4-3, and we welcome you to this edition of Teal Town After Dark. This is your live interactive Sharks postgame show. We do this after every game, home and away, occasional win, a lot of losses. But that's what we're here for. So if you want to be part of the show, here's how you do it. Chat with us and fellow Sharks fans on the YouTube page or the app around the world and in Sharks territory. Follow us on the social, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, SoundCloud, Reddit, Discord, TikTok. Find everything at tealtownusa.com. And of course, you want to support the pod, Venmo us at tealtownusa or use a super chat donation. All of that goes back to help support the show and keep the lights on for this wonderful passion project venture we have. And with that, I say good evening to Mr. Eric Landi.
We're back at it again. Look, tonight kind of went down the way I thought it was going to go down. And LA looking like a powerhouse in the West and on the ascent. You could maybe argue it's a year early, but the time is nigh.
The time is nigh for the Kings. Definitely not so much for the Sharks. But it started out really nicely. I thought the Sharks really played a nice, strong, dominant game early on. And then just a little bit before the 6-minute mark, Adrian Kempe gets a pass from Quentin Byfield behind the net to make it 1-0 Los Angeles, and then everything just fell apart from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on with the fact that the Sharks kind of started off hot. I think maybe, I don't know, I felt like maybe the first 2 to 3 minutes they kind of had the pace of play, but it really dropped off in that kind of 4th minute. And then you started to see kind of LA kind of come on a little less. The Sharks fall off a little bit, and the Kings to kind of come on a little bit more.
Right.
And you know that you were going to get that initial jump because of the back-to-backs anyways.
Yep.
Normally the team that has been on the road comes in that first period and normally has a little bit of life. But it didn't really last all that long, before Kempe really kind of bowled his way in and again was physical and outclassed the defenseman there, and the rest is the tale of the tape.
Yeah, I mean, LA's been on a run, 7-2-1 in their last 10 games, and they're in second place in Seattle. However, the Kraken have, I think 4 games in hand, so a tight race with, I think, coming into tonight, I think Vegas was at 56, LA was at 54, and the Seattle would be at 52. So quite an interesting race in the Pacific for the top spots and juggling all around. Sharks, like you said, back end of another back-to-back after beating Arizona on Tuesday night, or excuse me, yeah, it's Tuesday night. But we saw that momentum shift away after the goal. The Sharks were dominant in that early on in that game, so dominant that in the final 10 minutes of the first period, it was LA out shooting the Sharks 14-0. A 22-8 shot advantage for Los Angeles after 1 period of play. Obviously, the guys weren't going to be happy about that. Looks like they came out gunning when a minute 20 in, Nick Bonino in his 801st game gets a nonchalant pass from Copley, the LA goaltender, to tie this one up. I was like,
That
Ooh.
was a brain fart. That was, you had the goaltender had the puck in his mitt, decides to let go or not have full possession, but then just really slowly tries to extend his stick to poke the puck past Bonino, and it had nothing on it. It was like a duck fart basically. And again, just no authority with the stick play there, and it eventually gets onto Bonino's stick, and he's able to bury it. And I don't know. You can't chalk it up to more than a brain fart, more than just a goaltender who's not paying attention, I guess, to who the pressing forward is.
Yeah, and either way, it was a nice gift by LA to give the Sharks a tying goal, but it would be the only time I think that, well, one of two times the Sharks would have a tying goal in there. But first, Quentin Byfield, it's deflection, a perfect deflection from Anderson's shot from the point. Like he deflected it, and it literally went through the 5-hole of Reimer. I really can't blame Reimer on that one because it was just very, dare I say, Pavelskian.
Yeah, and Byfield was a guy that I felt could be the next wave for LA, part of that next rebuilding of their core to try to build around, because he's such a big frame, and he can skate, and he plays in the dirty areas, the areas that you want, a big power forward type, and kind of shades of Dustin Brown, and just kind of the way in which he parks his butt right in front of the net. Dustin Brown wasn't as big, and I don't think he has as much skill as Quentin Byfield.
No, he's just more known for his knees and his cheap shots, and apparently a future statue at Crypto.com arena. # no free ads.
Right. Yeah. So this is what I was concerned with. The young bodies starting to really add to the LA King roster, and really just start the ascent early for LA. It's nice to see that you can do a quick rebuild, because it gives me hope that the Sharks can maybe emulate that. But it's not very fun seeing LA do it. And I have been a part of some of those real gut punches by LA, and I don't have a short memory. You know what I mean? I feel the Las Vegas San Jose rivalry kind of took a little bit of the thunder away from the Kings and the Sharks, but man, there is nobody I do not like losing to more than the Kings.
Yeah. No, if it's the Knights or the Kings, Ducks seem a little tolerable, especially with how everything has gone apart with them lately.
They're just kind of like the annoying little brother. It's kind of how I feel about the Ducks.
It's kind of funny because when you go into Anaheim, and that's where we first met the first time we hung out for a game, and when I went last month with my girlfriend to the game, it's always, oh, yes, we have one thing in common: we both hate LA. Oh man. So that made it 2-1 after 2 periods of play. Third period, just kind of going back and forth. LA was trying to calm it down. They take a penalty. Meier's shot quickly goes in and out. They were like, we're not sure. Nope, that went in. A power play goal for Timo Meier, his 24th of the season. Carlson gets an assist, I believe, in 10 straight road games for him. So,
yep, captain getting an assist there too. And we had discussed yesterday about how Timo really could make an interesting trade deadline piece. Upping his value is just what I see with this. I just see dollar signs every time this guy scores.
Right. And more dollar signs, not to can be confused with Kevin LeBanc making a deposit. So that made it 2-2, but unfortunately, LA would get 2 goals in about a minute, just about a couple minutes later, first from Velarde to make it 3-2, and then Drew Dowdy making it 4-2.
Yeah, I mean, it should have probably been 5-2 with that 2-on-0, that 2-on-0 blow up that they had. They should have scored there. But on this one, guys, I just feel like Reimer. I don't know. It's not that he's played poorly. He just hasn't played the way that he was playing at that level that we saw last year, where he was really locked in. And this year, I feel like not only is it defensive blunders that he's been kind of getting victimized on, but I just think that it's just not. Maybe his heart's just not in it as much. I don't know. You don't want to say that he's not content, or you're not trying to say that he's trying to throw a game or anything like that. But again, I just don't see maybe the focus that I saw last year. For a guy who always seemed to really track the puck very well. You could see that he was really engaged even when the play was on the other side. I don't know. It just hasn't felt the same for me this season.
I will kind of disagree on you in this case, because look what he did tonight. This game should have been out of hand. It should have been over. 21 saves in the first period. He definitely kept this team in the game when they were just getting turnovers, and LA, like I said earlier, the last 10 minutes of the first period, 14-0 in favor of LA on shots. Just unacceptable play, defensively sounded. You have to do, he did so much for you this season and last. This team needs to find some more offense, and granted, their offense has been fairly decent.
No, I think I think honestly, it's the defensive play. Like honestly, it's just the forwards kind of not tracking back as well as you'd like. I feel like the defensemen have made some pretty egregious errors in their own zone. This is a team that's confidence is just not there. You know what I mean? It's a team that is trying to find an identity. Just a bunch of dudes on the ice, and they're what was the Thornton quote all those years ago? We're like coworkers. There's just not a lot of cohesion. It seems like guys are on different pages.
Yeah. And just trying to figure things out. I mean, Mikey Isimon, I thought played decent. He drew that penalty that set up the power play goal for Timo in the third period. So not producing, but on the score sheet, but doing little things to try to get anything going for this team.
Yeah, and I like the national broadcasts because it gives you a little bit of a different perspective than what we get with Randy and Drew, or Randy and Jamie.
You mean
Hetty. Oh, sorry.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah, right.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, we wish all the best for Jamie. I hope he's doing well. But going back to it, I just kind of have felt that they picked out a specific spot, and they had said the team has to learn how to win again. This is a team that has had multiple losing seasons now, and really has tried to turn the roster over. It seems like on the bottom, the bottom six, and even on the defensive side, it's a large remake to a certain extent. You've got Vlasic and Carlson being your holdovers, but Carlson came in when the team was doing well, and then they started to have a major drop off. I think we could say the departure of Joe Pavelski really kind of started that, or we could say Thornton When Thornton exited, could be another point of demarcation for the team. So they've really not learned how to win together with this current mix, with the Logan Couture, Timo Meyer, and Hurdle mix. They haven't figured out yet how to surround those three in particular, with enough depth and with a game plan that I think suits their style of play.
Yeah.
Because again, I see when they collapse in their own zone, it seems like they're scrambling all over the place. It doesn't seem like they really communicate all that much on the ice, like who's got who. We've talked ad nauseum about how the defensive pairs are so quiet. There's not a lot of chatter, and that has gone a long time, with this team. We felt that the communication has always been a little bit lacking.
Right.
But I don't know. It just seems even more magnified now that they're losing, that these little things that David Quinn has started to try to preach, it hasn't taken root yet. And that's a little surprising for, a little bit more than halfway, right? I mean, we're one game past halfway, and you would have thought that the team would have start to gel and start to identify, but instead it's been very inconsistent play. Inconsistent play from the goaltenders, inconsistent play from the defense. And I could say to a certain extent some inconsistencies in the forward grouping too.
Yeah, it's everybody, to be quite honest, and that goes from the players to the coaching staff to the front office. This team isn't built to. It's supposed to be built to be competitive and stay in the playoff race. Probably not so much besides that, but when this team has bad nights, it's bad, and they should feel bad.
And there's no, I mean, there's no bite, right? I mean, like, you can be bad.
Oh, good pun there.
Well, right. I mean, it seems like the Sharks are very soft to play against. You don't feel like, oh man, after that game, everybody's going to be wearing ice bags, and people are going to have black eyes or bloody noses or whatever. It's just they. Even if you're bad, you can still be hard to play against. I remember some of those bad Calgary teams that that Iggy would be on, and you would see that the team is not competitive, but boy, oh boy, they would beat up on you, and at least they could do that. I mean, even to a certain extent, the Kings have always beat up on us, and even in the tailspin that they were in, were still tough to play against.
Yeah,
it's just when you're that easy to play against, when you're playing inconsistent and, dare I say it, losing hockey, you find ways to lose. You find ways to lose instead of trying to find a way to win the game. You're now have that seed of doubt, and it just seems like that seed of doubt has sprung into a large issue of a problem now. And really, I think the only way that you can start to excise the wound is to have to cut. You're going to have to cut out the major, some major pieces in order to get some real change done.
Yeah, and the tough part is that means saying goodbye to players that you really like. Now, how deep does that go? Well, we'll find out in about a little over a month and a half. But something's got to give here. And,
I mean, Logan he looks like a shell of himself right now.
Right, and even Metal Mario saying in the chat, Couture looks like he's skating in sand. I did like the tenacity that they had with Couture, Barabanov, and Sturm for a little bit when Quinn changed the lines around a little bit.
Yeah.
We should mention Barabanov's goal late in the game, the teaser goal with about a minute to go. that made that a 4-3 final on there.
Look, I mean, I've liked what Nico Sturm has brought to the table, and I think of the acquisitions that Greer has made to try to change the culture. Nico Sturm is a guy that moves that in the right direction. But there's not enough of Nico Sturm, you know. A guy that I cannot understand for the life of me why he's been in and out of this lineup is Vinny Svechnikov. I felt like he's been, especially early on in the season, he was really leading, the team with the scoring there from the tertiary scoring.
Mm-hmm.
So, there are pieces that I like. There are players that I think can really make a difference, but I don't think there are enough of those players, if you know what I mean. I think there are more passengers on this team than there are drivers of play.
Well, and it's like Timo, Eric Carlson, for a lesser extent James Reimer. It's like, do I have to do everything around here? And trust me, I can relate to that. It just at work, it's just like, my God, come on, guys, let's just come on. Don't I need some help around here. Um, even the interview with Jackie Redmond before the game at the hotel room, or not the hotel room, so that sounded the hotel lobby. If things fall, he wants to win. I mean, I appreciate him not saying training right up and now. But if things come up, then things come up. But that's going to be the interesting one.
They gave the goal to Hurdle. By the way, they changed.
They changed to the.
Yeah, Tomas Hurdle from Barabanov.
Well, that helps my fantasy team out a little bit. That's good. But I will say Barbie's been doing.
Yeah,
he's been playing really strong the last couple of weeks. Even going back to, I think, like the New Year's Eve game against Dallas in the losing effort.
Yeah, and again, the offense hasn't been horrible, right? I think what they're kind of bottom third of the league, but it's still not as glaring an issue. I mean, I think all phases of the ice there's an issue, right? But I think the biggest glaring issue is they just cannot keep the puck out of their net.
Yeah.
And they just continually bust assignments over and over and over again. And
it just seems like it's a collective team loss. I mean, we talk about how, a great strong team win and everything. I think it's a collective team loss because they there's just little things, the turnover up high, bouncing puck. I remember one day or tonight how Magna was like force feeding Carlson, and there was a guy right there, and that almost led to a breakaway, and it got broken up. Let's not also forget they had probably, I think, two posts in the third period, along with that little net mouth scramble late in the second period. So they battled hard. I think that's one thing we can look at. And you hate to have moral victories. Of course, you'd rather have the actual W. But one of the things that I know when we've had Ian on, it's like at least it's an entertaining game. It's not getting blown out, which could have been really bad.
Yeah, but that first period wasn't entertaining. I mean, they got caved in on that first period.
And that's where Reimer saved their butts in that game. I mean, he would make 12 saves the rest of the way, and he had to keep it from, making sure it wasn't like 6-0 or 6-1 or 6. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, come on, guys. It's.
I think. And PJ is asking about Reimer and do you trade him? I mean, I think at this point, the team has to do what's best for the long-term plans of the team, right? So is James Reimer going to be a guy that you're going to extend again and keep him here? He's starting to get up there in age, and you don't know how long he's going to continue to play. He could be the next incarnate of Craig Anderson, who seemingly played forever, but that's not the norm for a goalie, right? I mean, 38 that's like tops of what a goalie can really do. So, it's like, how much do you want to invest in that in James Reimer, or can you try to get an asset with him bundled together with a Ryan Merkley?
Mm-hmm.
If you're able to get an asset like a second, maybe a second and a third, or a second and a B level prospect, I mean, I think you have to really consider taking that deal.
Right. And
Um,
it's not like the Sharks don't have depth in goaltending. It's just a little green.
yeah, and I would even venture to say that I'd rather see Itu Makaniemi back up um, Capo Kakkonen, or even Makaniemi making starts, because at this point we don't really know what Capo Kakkonen is. So it's trying to see and trying to figure out what exactly you have in the goaltending pipeline, because again, Reimer is not a guy that you're going to sit there and go, okay, we're going to stroke a check for a 3-year deal. I don't see it. And if you're not going to keep a guy, then you might as well exact or get much as you can, maximize that return.
Right.
But same thing with a Nick Bonino and same thing with Matt Nieto, right? I mean,
Yeah.
those two players, while they're helpful and good on the PK and bring some defensive stability, can a 34-point team afford that at this point?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Versus playing some of the younger guys and seeing what they have. I mean, that's kind of the head scratcher here, Eric, for me, is why is Mike Greer not shuffling more players up and down? Why are we not seeing more, some more movement there, or at least, have, a little bit of a different look than what we're getting now? Because it just seems like the mix isn't right.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you're not going to put Borlow or Eklund into a second six or bottom six role.
No, but
But
Agazino, you might be able to.
you could put if I'm not sure if he is on just an AHL deal only. That one we might have to look at. But Raska, Reedy, who were up last year with this team, who's made a difference. I guess they're just trying to get more seasoning out of these youngsters or youngish sters to get more opportunities with the CUDA.
How about a guy like Jeffrey Viel, though?
Yeah,
You know,
who's been up the last 2-3 seasons.
at least that's a guy that gives you a little bit of bite. That's a guy that will drag people into the deep end and really play the style of game that Mike Greer is preaching he wants to play.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Mikey J in the chat saying Hurdle needs to dominate, needs to fill that leading role. Yeah, Hurdle's having,
He's having a rough patch right now.
yeah, and LM saying Veal, aka Pim. Yeah.
Well,
Eh,
I mean, look, I mean, but it's something, right? It's some kind of fight from this team, literally, figuratively, however you want to put it, or play, a guy like Gadjevich more. Um, it's kind of evident that the team is not good, and kind of evident that the team lacks depth. So you might as well take some bodies with you. You know what I mean?
yeah. Speaking of which, Harrington, we haven't heard anything as to why he only played 4.5 or like almost 5 minutes tonight. 1706 for Mark Edward Vlasic for a team that had to play with 5 defensemen. Everybody else was in the 21 to 23 range, and then EK 65 at nearly 28 minutes on the night.
And how many minutes did he play last night? I mean,
practically
that
played a full game within the last 24 hours.
yeah, exactly. And it's just I understand that the team is trying to win, but when I mean, that's putting a guy up for injury. You know what I
Well,
mean?
and the other thing too is that there is that passion and that burning desire to be successful. You know, we're seeing what Erik Karlsson is when healthy. You know, and it's nice to see, and it's nice to, you know, see where he's at. I mean, he's just been putting up phenomenal numbers. I mean, they compared him to freaking Bobby Orr on the TNT broadcast, which, by the way, the first broadcast on TNT for the Sharks. Always liked Brendan Burke and Darren Pang. What did you think of the broadcast?
Yeah, I thought it had good flow, good cadence. I liked that it was pretty neutral. I also felt that the staff came prepared to talk about the growth and development from Los Angeles, and again made a point to kind of say, hey, this is a team that's defying expectations, and you know we had seen some lean years there in LA. And we had seen, Staples. It's very interesting. Staples kind of mimics San Jose, or San Jose kind of mimics Staples in the way that when the teams don't play well, they don't draw very well. But when they're playing well, they really.
It's filled up.
Yeah, it's really filled up. And tonight, I mean, I could just hear it in the crowd. When they do. Freddie Mercury's AO, chant or whatever. I always like to listen to that to gauge how into it the fans were, and they were really loud. And so it's the Madhouse on Madison, or what? No, is that Chicago?
That's Chicago.
What is it? I can't remember what
the Frenzy on Figueroa.
Yeah, that's it.
I think that's it. Of course, there's also in 2011 where the Sharks were down 4-0, the stunner at Staples.
Yeah.
That was a great game. So yeah, that kind of puts a bow on this one. The Sharks lose 4-3. Game where they started out really strong, and then once about one bad thing went down, it's like the season. It just demoralized the team again.
Yep.
Where it's just, the psyche is not there. I don't know if they need to bring in sports psychologist Harry Edwards from the Niners to get this team out of a funk. Granted they won last night, but it's just, just seems like there's something different all the time with this team. So there's that. Hey, you want to be brought down a little bit more too? Okay.
Barracuda.
That's right. Your San Jose Barracuda played a second set of back-to-backs as well tonight in Landytown, we'll call it, in San Diego, taking on the Gulls. And the Cuda got off to a good start. Jeffrey VL, the aforementioned Jeffrey VL, picks up his 6th of the season to make it 1-0, and then William Eklund gets his 9th with a nice shot that looked like it went 5-hole to make it 2-0. Cuda really dominated the first period. I think it was like they outshot 13-4.
Hey, if the whole game was the first period, they'd looking pretty good.
They'd be looking pretty good. And then the second and third period happened where the Gulls pick up 5 unanswered goals. They would get a game-winning goal from Drew with 4 minutes to go in regulation. That would be the game winner. They had 2 empty netters, and it's a 5-2 San Diego victory over the Cuda on this one. Did you catch any of this one by chance, Landy? I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit there.
That would be a negative.
Well, and I don't blame you. But yeah, the Sharks, top minor league affiliate, go down to the Gulls on this one.
I do see William Eklund 5 minutes for fighting.
Yeah, he stood up for his teammate and dropped the gloves with
Don't do
Gadan.
that, buddy. Don't do that.
The Cuda probably don't want that to happen, but he dropped the gloves on this night, and it was okay. Let's see, he got some punches in, but you could tell he was pretty green. So yes, he was an assist away from a Gordie Howe hat trick. So
protect those mitts, baby. Protect those mitts.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
Exactly. So they lose 5-2. Next up for the CUDA will be a home back-to-back with Abbotsford. Did somebody say Abbotsford? That's Saturday at 6 p.m. and then Sunday at 1 p.m. So hopefully after we celebrate a Niners victory, you can head on over to Texie Arena to...
Don't you jinx it.
I'm not jinxing shiz. I'm not jinxing shiz. So you have that going on for you. So again, Saturday at 6, Sunday at 1, and I believe it's Superhero Day at Texie Arena on Sunday. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, it's tough. It's demoralizing. Landy, let's be honest here. We do a lot of these between you, me, and occasionally Ian will host a couple, and I know AJ did one. It's tough to
continually rehash this. To continually see the same issues again and again and again. Somebody, LM, was saying, he's like, it seems like a lot in sports podcasts that you hear again and again. And it's like, well, there's not really much more to say. Yeah. I mean, it really is the same thing where you witness the same thing over and over and over again.
Yep.
And I mean, at least that's why I'm getting a little antsy on, hey, there was some different looks here, or at least choose a direction you're going. Either you lose more and you start to kind of understand your lot in life and position yourself better, or you go all in and you're trying to compete to leave everything out on the ice,
right?
And really make it interesting and difficult in the wild card race or wild card hunt. But I don't even think that this team, I don't think they have the personnel to do that. You know what I mean? I don't see personnel that are able to win a playoff spot at this point. And yet I don't see a team that is bad enough to win overall number one overall. And again, like I had preached earlier, this smells like Minnesota, where they're just stuck in the middle for a decade, and never having quite enough to reach the pinnacle, but never really bottoming out enough to gain a star forward or star, that one number one center that they've always looked for. And now, they get Kirill Kaprizov, and he's the real deal. And, that's really changed their lot in life. So it really goes to show you, the center depth, super important right now. And I think more so than ever in the Western Conference, that you have to have 3 solid centers down the middle to really expect to go anywhere in this conference.
Yeah. And just looking at how this conference, let alone the division, with what's they're going up against. I mean, I don't think there's ever a right time to rebuild, but
And LM was saying, he's speaking about a handful of sportscasts, I listen to, not just us, but
of course, how dare you not listen to just us?
But I'm even guilty of it right now. I don't watch the games with as much fervor as I used to. I don't necessarily look at how players are tracking back and forth as much as I used to. And especially in this descent that we've been in for the last 3 years, I feel like that that muscle memory is starting to atrophy a little bit in how to recognize, when a player is able to drive play, or even to be able to spot plays being executed on the ice. Now, there hasn't been a lot of execution in the last 3 years, so it's not like, that there's stuff for me to practice with there
Right.
on that end. But in seasons prior, I had kind of toyed around with the idea of maybe doing a telestrator section, but I don't think I could do that now. There's just again, I think this losing has really, I think it's affected the organization. I think it's affected the fans, and quite honestly, it's affected the way in which we cover.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh brother, here we go again.
Yeah, and let's be honest here. There was even somebody in the chat earlier saying, how crazy would the live chat be during the heyday or during a Sharks win? And yeah, I mean, nothing against
some
us
of those,
tonight. I mean,
some of those Western Conference, runs. I mean, we had pulling over 150 people, and some really, really fun time. I mean, shoot, after that Vegas game, we just all lost it, and that was
an amazing fun. And
yeah, we've had some really good rides.
Yeah.
But we need to learn how to get back there.
Yeah,
all of us.
Absolutely, it's gonna be there's gonna be some pain. We just have to work through it, gang. Just have to work through it. It's gonna be a tough road to hoe. And 39 more of these. Landy, we're gonna make it through here. I know. Who knows after that? But
Oh, we'll keep doing it as long as there's a team in San Jose. We'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
And you play for the crest, and we talk to the crest. That's who we are. For me, it's always been a point of civic pride to say this is my team from where I'm from, and it's not the Niners, it's not the Giants, no, it's San Jose, it's South Bay, it's the team that came here and made me fall in love with this sport. So I as long as I'm breathing, and as long as they're playing, we'll keep doing it.
Yeah,
but I'm not saying it's pretty.
No. 1 second. Let me. You said talk to the crest. Get better, damn it! Come on,
little guy. I know you know how to swim.
Yeah. Let's get into the chat really quick before we get on out of here. Mikey J, unfortunately, it took the Burns departure to free up the ice for Carlson. Yeah,
yep.
There could have been multiple ways to do it, and it just wasn't gelling. It's almost like Quinn kind of released the Carlson a bit. PJ, John, the Sharks were competitive for about 53 minutes. Yes, and just really rough spots in there that saw LA just take over it. Joseph Salem, Sharks gave the Kings a challenging game, a lot of goalposts, hoping for a win against the Oilers. I wish I could say the same. Racist Fan Rocks 4. I mean, this would be the best time to rebuild. One of the upcoming drafts is going to be deep. Yes, absolutely. Even if you don't get Bedard.
Yeah, well, I mean, 1 through 5 is going to be a player. One you could even say that 1, 2, and 3. I mean, 2 and 3 could be first overalls in any other year.
Yep.
I mean, it really is that deep. I mean, 1 through 5, I said, is going to be a bona fide NHLer for sure. And again, 1, 2, or 3 will really put your franchise forward. Number 1, I think is, I think he's going to be closer to Nate McKinnon than he's going to be closer to Connor McDavid.
I'll take either one of those, to be quite honest.
Yeah, and quite honestly, I'd rather have Nathan McKinnon, because Nathan McKinnon's a winner. That kid. I mean, you want to talk about leave it all on the ice? That kid has proven it.
Yeah. Mikey J also saying LA acquired Dano and Fiala via free agency. That's what
Those were
Graves did. Yeah.
two good pickups, ones that we liked here.
Yep. But here's the thing: San Jose has never gotten solid free agents. I mean,
even in the Thornton years, I mean,
yeah.
it has always been a tough sell to play in Northern California.
Yeah.
Unfortunate. I think there's some really, really beautiful spots in Northern California for sure, and it's I think the fan base is a very smart and dedicated fan base, and it can, if you're a player who can ingratiate themselves to the fan base, then you really be taken care of. I mean, Tomas Hertl is that smile anywhere in San Jose, and wherever he goes, it's always we're always really respectful. I think we're not like the Canadians where they kind of pester their players on the streets or whatever.
Hey, you got to work on that power play, damn it.
No, but I think I think that the San Jose crowd is honestly it's a diverse crowd, but it's also a smart crowd.
Yeah.
I think it's a smart hockey going crowd.
No, it is. I mean, we've been very knowledgeable prior to everything. Even during that '94 run.
I was just gonna say we've gotten praises from Red Wings fans. We've gotten praises from Blues fans. I mean, entrenched NHL teams that come here and go, damn. I mean, they put up an impressive show there, and a fan base, and the Tank used to be known as like the loudest building in the NHL, and again, that you just look at that Game 7 against Vegas. I mean, as the last time it got so loud. I mean, yeah, that one, I mean, was, I think, the loudest I think I've ever heard the building. But
yeah, Jerk, to quote Jerk, did somebody say Game 7? Yes. And Kevin, thank you. Thank you. I just remember that Fiala was through a trade. But I think overall, just getting name players over here is key. Are they there where they are going to be making a massive impact to make a playoff push? Probably not. And then even 41 MB 04 TJ. At this point, I'm feeling for the players in the locker room.
Yeah,
and this has got to eat them up a bit too. 13, 22, and 8 is your record. You're at 34 points.
I mean, Logan Couture is probably the poster child for that. I mean, this is a guy that played with 2 Hall of Famers. A guy that had seen. A guy that had seen Bernsey at forward and played with Bernsey at forward.
Yeah.
A guy who avenged his captain in a Game 7, help avenge his captain in a Game 7. I mean, this is a guy that is used to winning. I mean, even when he was a 67, an Ottawa 67, he was used to winning. And for him not to be in the playoffs and not go to the tourney, and how well of a playoff player he was. I mean, that year, the Stanley Cup final year, I mean, led scoring by a forward, and he goes insane in the playoffs. And for him not to be there, he must. You worry about his self-confidence at this point, because it is such an ingrained thing for him to go to the big dance year in, year out, and not to go for 3 years. I think, he probably looks, we know he looks inward, and we know how self-deprecating he is. Yeah. And he must feel like this is his fault, and he can't,
and a lot of fans have put that on him too, wanting to strip the C on him as well.
And I think, we had all had worried a little bit, because Couture was a guy who was very introspective and could give you a real soundbite, and giving him the C would be a lot of responsibility. And, just kind of adding to the style of player that he already was, it must be tough. It must be tough.
Yeah. No, completely agree. And Kevin, I completely agree with what you said. Also, as I said in September, this season is all about who is worth keeping for when we're ready to start making progress. Sturm is leading the charge on that. Yeah. The question is could that be a trade asset if there's something that's just and such. But it's got to eat it's got to eat a lot of these guys inside, and I think that really does start with Logan Couture.
Or Marc-Edouard Vlasic too. I mean, because he played with the old logo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the last player on the team to play with the old logo.
Mm-hmm. Well, and speaking of Marc-Edouard Vlasic, he takes his first penalty of the season. So, of course, that means there goes the Lady Bing.
Chris Rower, yeah, no, I would agree with you on that one. Couture is no longer the threat that he was, and whether it's he's already at a minus there on the self-confidence because of where they're at. So does that also play into the way in which he plays? I think that has a lot to do with it. I think there's a lot. Psychology is very sports psychology in general is very interesting. Kevin saying it's not on Couture, and I think we're all pretty much in agreement that the team is just lacking in depth, right? And this is not a symptom on him. This is a more of a structural and contractual bind more than anything else. So, he would, I think if you put him on a team like, I mean, I'm just looking at teams right now across the board in the playoff sphere. He could be a good Ranger. I mean, he could be a good Ranger. I think he could be a good Penguin because I think he always really liked playing against Sidney Crosby. I could see him blossoming, maybe, not blossoming, but maybe bringing along a Dallas team that you'd like to see, have one more big piece to really make a good deep run. I think part of the problem is the losing has really kind of eroded his own sense in himself. But I also think that he might not have been fully healthy this year either, because I've always, especially this year, I've speculated on that wrist shot. It just has not looked the same.
Yeah. The unfortunate part for Couture is that he still has this year plus 4 more on his deal at $8 million per. So you have to wonder if Mike Grier's going to want to, have some salary retention to make that happen. We'll see. So, do want to get to some of the comments that came out of the locker room. Harrington is an upper body injury. That's going to be he will be looked at again a little bit, tomorrow. Didn't have any other information besides that. Reimer, unfortunately, as a group here, it's real disappointing. You feel like you deserve better fate, but at the end of the day, this league doesn't hand out wins to people or teams that don't deserve it. And David Quinn kind of put it bluntly to the media on a first period where they were outshot 22-8. Quote, "The safest place in the building in the first period was in front of our net."
Yep.
So that's kind of puts it in there.
Puts the bow on it.
Yep.
I think.
Yep.
And we'll come back at it on Friday.
Taking on Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the Edmonton. Good.
Well, I mean, there's a team that should be playing better than it is, right? I mean that's a team that, I think a little bit of bravado, a little over bravado, or maybe just a little bit high on their own supply. But that's a team that needs to wake up, especially if they have the cup aspirations that they have. because right now, I mean, they're kind of all over the place.
Well, they're holding down the wild card spot in the West. I mean, kind of looking at the playoff standings, because I mean, yes, the Sharks are out of it, but I mean, they're going to be in it. But there are other teams in it. Edmonton is hanging on to the second wild card at 47 points. Just two behind them is the St. Louis Blues. They're tied with Calgary in points, but Calgary has a game in hand, despite Edmonton having 3 more wins. That being said, both Calgary and Edmonton are 5 points behind Seattle, which holds down the third spot in the Pacific. So,
and a Nashville Predator team that's got 44 points and 2 games in hand.
yeah,
I think, and a Colorado Avalanche that's got, they've got 3 games in hand. I mean, that's another team that's just gonna, ready to wake up here, and get the smelling salts in the nose and get up. I mean, there are 3 teams that could, vie for those spots. I think, St. Louis, Nashville, and Colorado. I think any one of those 3, or heck,
right.
even more than, could make their way into the, dislodge the 2 Western Canada teams in the wild card. Calgary, I think, has done decent. I would say, again,
I expected them to be a little bit better than this, though.
Yeah, but you look at how much left in the off season, and I wasn't so sure about that heart transplant that they had. Huberdeau for Kachuk, and I don't know about that.
Yeah, Huberdeau's kind of struggled up there in Calgary, but also so has Mackenzie Weegar, who was also part of that. So that's a tough one for them to take. So. All right, with that being said, in case you missed any of this or you want to watch this again, check us out on tealtownusa.com or your favorite podcatcher, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Google, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Odyssey. Of course, you're on the YouTube channel. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tell all your friends. Also hit that notification bell. That'll notify you when we do go on the air following each and every game. And, of course, for Pucknologists, your weekly recap of Sharks hockey with AJ and Jerk at 7 o'clock on Sundays. So be on the lookout for that. Of course, you can always find it at tealtownusa.com as well. So with that, Eric Landy, your final thoughts on where the people can find you.
Well, most of the time it's preach a simple game, play meat and potatoes, leave some bodies out there. I don't know. Just be a little bit harder to play against. That's what I'd like to see. I think at the end of it is just make the other team feel that they played a game against you, because right now it's ice capades. As far as where you can find me, you can use my first name, that's Eric, last name, that's Landy, across all the social media garbage. I'm there.
All right, I'm at Puckguy14 on the Twitter and the Instagram. My final thought is that just stick with it. Just try to get through this. Try to get some frustrating times. There's players, there's people that are just bugging the heck out of you, and it's frustrating and everything, and you just have to persevere. And no matter how bleak or dark it can be, we have our team. We have what it takes. We just have to stick it out. So we'll be back with you Friday following Sharks and Oilers. They'll be at home for the weekend, and then we'll go from there. So thanks for watching. Appreciate each and every one of you. And until next time, keep it real, keep it teal, keep it real, Teal. Good night, everyone.